Hello, everyone. Ian Hamilton here with Good Virtual Reality, and thanks for giving me your time today. You become a member at goodvirtualreality.com and also support independent VR journalism directly with a donation. Today, I'm joined by Sam Cole, the CEO and co founder of FitXR. Hi, Sam. Why don't you introduce yourself and tell us where you're tuning in from today?
My name's Sam. I'm the co-founder and CEO of FitXR. We were the first virtual reality fitness app to launch on the stores and one of the most dominant still today, 10 years later, and have really just been for almost 10 years now, just investing heavily on building the very best virtual reality fitness experience. And now starting to spend more time thinking about how does that translate to things like glasses, as we're seeing kind of the early stages of what will become augmented reality, like true augmented reality glasses come to market. And I'm calling in today from San Francisco.
Awesome. Well, let's go back to the beginning of that journey there. What was your first experience with virtual reality? How did you get involved with this?
Yeah, so initially we were actually really excited about what Magic Leap were doing in kind of like 2014. We saw a lot of their kind of vision videos and saw them raise a ton of money and got excited about what they were working on. We started to think a lot about how a device like what Magic Leap was talking about, like true augmented reality glasses, could be the next computing platform and could radically change how people worked out, whether that was working out in the gym or outdoors or at home. We started working with Magic Leap on a small kind of proposal where we wanted to overlay visuals on top of an actual boxing bag to guide you through a workout. And those visuals could either be very functional, or we liked the idea of like being able to really personalize and dial up that kind of visual layer. And maybe, you just wanted basic boxing targets, but maybe you wanted to feel like you were whacking monsters back into the boxing bag. So we really loved this idea of this kind of visual layer and augmented reality being highly personalized. But it was actually on the guidance of one of the people at Magic Leap early on that kind of steered us more towards virtual reality. And it was really formative advice and something that I'm really grateful for as I look back. But this person basically said, hey, we're a long way from being consumer ready with any of our devices. So you should really think about building in virtual reality because you're going to be able to serve real customers. You're going to be able to make some money, and you're going to get that feedback loop of building iteratively with customer feedback that we're not going to be able to give you for a long time. And we were initially skeptical because we thought it would be kind of weird to exercise in a headset. And so I think that's why I have such empathy for people who still hold this view today, where they're like, isn't it going to be strange to sweat in this device? And you remember back then, these devices were like heavier, bulkier, you had cables everywhere, you had to set up a lot more equipment to make it work. So we had that same skepticism, probably even more so. But it wasn't until we started building in the space and we initially prototyped a range of different experiences. So we had boxing, which eventually became Box VR, which was the kind of first fitness title that was released on any VR app store. Then we also had a rowing prototype and a cycling prototype. But it was like boxing that we would get into a very crude, very rough prototype. And my co-founder and I would lose ourselves in the experience. We completely forget that we were doing this inside his cold garage on the outskirts of London, and there were cables everywhere, and we had a headset on. We'd lose ourselves in the experience despite very basic visuals that we had going on, very basic art assets. And that's when it hit us. We were like, wow, there's something really powerful here. Once you get past this preconceived idea about what the limitations of the technology and just try it, we were blown away. And we learned that many customers throughout this whole journey, in fact, customers still today have exactly the same mindset with a Quest 3 or 3S headset. They'll be skeptical and then they'll put the device on and they'll be blown away by how great the experience is. And they'll be really surprised by how things they thought were going to be negative weren't actually as big a factors as they thought about. So that for me was really the foray into building into virtual reality.
Very interesting to hear the full circle journey there that you're suggesting that you're kind of thinking about AR glasses today, where I'm still very much a believer that the economics of VR headsets are going to win the day. The display type is going to get higher resolution, lighter weight on your head. And as that happens, it'll achieve mass market economics before you get 70 or 80-degree field of view out of augmented reality, see-through eyewear that really feels great to look at. But then again, I was sort of surprised by how wide the field of view was in the X-Rail Aura glasses when I saw them at AWE earlier this year. So my mind is open. I'm still sort of in the camp of thinking that VR glasses are coming, that you're going to see a slimming down of these headsets to the glasses form factor. When we get a pair of VR-based optics that are really wide field of view above 90 degrees, let you maybe look at the periphery, but also maybe optionally close you off with maybe some light blockers that you can stick on there and still give you that transportive place where you actually go somewhere else. And then it just being like 100 grams or so, when we actually get something that's that light on your face, I think it'll surprise a lot of people that decided that VR wasn't for them because it was too bulky. And I think a bunch of people will come around. Do you think there needs to be a serious weight loss on the headsets themselves in order for the market opportunity to be there for you to be much larger?
Before I answer as well, I'm completely with you on your perspective. I'm much more bullish on VR. And I think that with glasses, it's early and it's exciting, but it's early. And I kind of find myself adding a bit of caution to the glasses story because anyone who's been in VR for a long time knows about the hype cycle that the technology can go through. And I just think glasses in their current form, it's great that we're seeing adoption, but the amount of people that are wearing those glasses and regularly consuming third-party apps, and if you go one step further, would start to pay for third-party apps is very small, and that will no doubt grow over time. But yeah, I'm much more bullish on where VR is at, exactly from the lens that you're taking, which is we will have headsets soon that feel a lot more like glasses in terms of form factor. That's going to be really significant for overall adoption. That comes from so much of that is perception rather than reality. We've done a bunch of things with Meta over the years where we've tried to sell headsets to kind of our target demographic and really market headsets as pieces of fitness equipment rather than, a gaming console. When we talk to customers in that kind of sales process, you kind of really understand their skepticism. The skepticism is built around, let's just zero in on the Quest 3, for example. When they look at that device, they think gaming console for kids. They can't envision themselves wearing that. For us, it's a piece of fitness equipment. They can't see themselves wearing that to do fitness, but they also can't see themselves wearing that to watch a movie. They can't see themselves to do that to take a video call, for example. When you put the Quest 3 on them, none of them go, yeah, I mean, it's great, but if it was just a little bit less heavy, I would buy it. It's all of this preconceived ideas about what it is and isn't going to be. So I think it's so much tied to how the device looks in marketing materials, and therefore that driving the adoption, which is obviously linked, but I just don't think there's this critical number rather than more people need to look at the device and answer yes to the question of, can I see myself wearing that? Even if wearing that only means wearing it in my own home, I'm very supportive of the approach the hardware manufacturers take here, trying to drive more use cases of people wearing the devices out in public as well. Watching movies on a plane or on a train is obvious examples. But also, I get it from a productivity use case as well, where it's if you walked around more cafes, right, and you saw people working with these headsets on, I think that would be beneficial as well. Those are all kind of secondary to this fundamental question of, can I see myself wearing that device? The new devices that are coming, the answer to that is going to be yes for a lot more people than it has been for the historical devices.
Yeah, I totally agree. I love that. Why don't you break down what the FitXR service is today as it stands for users? What is the price and what do people get when they join?
We're a subscription service with a monthly price of $12.99, about 30% less if you subscribe annually. And for that, we have a range of different modalities that we support. So we have boxing, combat, high intensity interval training, flow, which is more of the kind of baton-based experience that feels like a little bit of a cross between boxing and dance. We also have more dedicated dance, and then sculpt, which is a bit more like lighter strengthening exercises. And we have regularly updated content from our team of amazing world-class fitness instructors, so all handcrafted by them. We release a little bit more than 7 classes a week, so all new content coming into the experience. And every dollar that we make through our subscription service, we pour back into investing in the product as a live service. So we used to be a premium download. before subscription services were available in the store, we were a premium download. But being able to move to subscription pricing has just enabled us to invest so much more significantly in the product. And one other thing we do is we run a seasonal approach to new content. So every 3 months, we take our customers on a new journey. For example, at the moment, we're exploring the ocean and we have a bunch of different environments and rewards and challenges that are all created around that seasonal approach. I think we're kind of in a shipwreck scene at the moment is the August one, and then we've got some pretty cool stuff happening in September there as well. But it's just all for us about creating variety and providing a reason for our customers to come back and hopefully make it as easy as possible for them to form a habit around exercise.
Interesting. So I assume you've got a lot of stories in your community of people that have credited the app with changing their lives, even saving their lives. Are there any impactful stories that you've heard from that sort of stick with you, that carry you through the workday?
We're really fortunate. It's something that is I didn't appreciate this when we founded the company, but it's such a powerful motivating force for everyone inside FitXR just to hear the impact that we're having on our customers' lives. I think the thing that I found probably most interesting here pretty early on is that I thought initially I was building this app for myself. In many senses I have, but I've learned that I'm fortunate in the sense that I haven't had problems trying to form a habit with exercise in the past. I can find like a flow-like state with exercise. I've learned through talking to loads of our customers over the years just how much of a gift that is, and just how much traditional fitness and the way that fitness is taught in schools stops people from being able to get that feeling. Because many of our customers will come to us, when they'll be 40 or 50 years old, and they'll say things like, I hated PE at school. I never found sport engaging. I wasn't very good at it. I tried a bunch of different things over the years, like hundreds of different things to try and be fit and healthy, but everything felt hard. And I started to believe that fitness wasn't for me. It wasn't until I tried FitXR that I put the headset on, I jumped into one of the classes, and I just lost track of time completely. And I was in there for 30 minutes and I took the headset off and my muscles ached and I felt fantastic and I was drenched in sweat. And that's never happened to me before. That's an amazing experience and such a gift for us to be able to give to people. The most important thing with that is that it makes it so much more easier for them to come back the next day and then the day after and then the day after that. So the thing that I'm most proud of is not that we give like one brilliant session. It's that we make it easier for more people than ever before to find a habit with exercise. And I think that's where we start to have, like you said before, like the really life-changing results and impact here, because the traditional fitness industry doesn't try and serve this audience of people at all. And this audience of people is actually the vast majority of the population. Something like only 4% of Americans have a gym membership and actively use that gym membership. It just shows you that the vast majority of the population aren't engaging regularly with exercise. The fitness industry looks at people who haven't formed a habit with exercise. They won't ever publicly say this, but they'll generally feel like it's a problem with the customer, and those customers are fickle and can't form a habit and therefore are low value to try and serve. But the opposite is true. It's a problem with the product. The more that you're able to build a product to serve this audience, the more that you're able to serve like a truly mass market audience. That's the thing that really excites us, and equally is the thing that we're most proud of.
I really want to understand what you think of Supernatural and the story of Supernatural and how it sits relative to the overall shape of the market. Obviously, this has been a very different year in VR history than all the past years, with Meta pulling back on its Horizon Worlds efforts early on with massive layoffs. They're stopping ideas that weren't working, really acknowledging that certain things weren't working about their VR strategy. But the overall idea that VR is the future is still very core to their overall pitch. So I see them moving towards things like photoreal avatars, like the Persona avatars that are in the Apple Vision Pro. I see them doubling down on those avatars in their upcoming headsets. I also would expect them to continue to double down on sort of room captures like they're doing in the Hyperscape application. And it's interesting to think of those being places for you to visit your friends, like with your real avatar coming over to your friend's actual house and walking around it essentially in headset. But I want to put all of that in context of what happened to Supernatural. And then obviously the surprise here a couple months ago that they're getting spun out from Meta and getting a second chance at life. They were part of an acquisition period when Meta acquired a whole bunch of companies. And you got to sit there for this entire journey doing your own thing. And I wanted to sort of go on that journey with you here for a minute and wondered if you could take me back to like where you were when you heard that Meta was acquiring them and how you felt about that and all the way through to this year.
I want to say that I completely agree with you on how great it's going to be. Imagine if we were doing this in kind of next gen VR devices and I felt like I was in your studio with you and we had that real presence through codec avatars. I feel like the discussion around VR often centers, is it the hardware or the content or the software that needs to evolve to like truly break through, and like what is holding it back? The ideas are there and the ideas are still great and strong. They just need to be executed really well. I would still love the idea of being able to watch sport courtside with my friends, a bunch of which who still live back in New Zealand, and feel like we were present in the same space. A lot of people have tried to hit that, but like to execute that at a level that feels truly frictionless and truly capable of mass market adoption, I think is the level that we need to see before we get that mass market adoption. I don't think we need these like crazy new ideas to unlock this space. I just think we need to do some of the things that have been talked about for a long time now, but do them exceptionally well and make them frictionless for new customers. On the Supernatural journey, I actually distinctly remember when this happened because I was at my wife's parents' place up in North Yorkshire in the UK when we got a call from Meta saying like, hey, as you know, we've been looking at acquiring a fitness title and we're going to move forward with Supernatural. And the call was before it went public. They were like, it's going to be announced in the next 24 hours, but we wanted to give you a heads up because we wanted to talk to you about what we're doing to make sure that you as a third-party app are still successful and why we still care about third-party success. And I think Meta did actually a pretty great job of, like, obviously there was a lot of fear from our investors and I suppose like developers in the wider space about what if Meta was owning first-party studios and they were competitive with third-party studios, how that would play out. But I think the things that they said they were going to deliver on, where they were going to still care about third-party titles, they were going to try and make third-party titles successful, they were going to create confidentiality kind of walls and barriers inside the organization to stop information being shared between first-party and third-party teams. And I suppose like act a little bit more like how you see organizations like PlayStation acting. I think they did a pretty good job of that. Roll forward to like maybe the present day. I think you kind of summarized this well, where like they've looked at a bunch of their first-party studios that had built good products, but were really loss-making and needed to basically stop the losses on Reality Labs. And so where they had made bets on content that weren't able to move into a profitable state and become more self-sufficient, they needed to act accordingly. And I think that really is that like the Supernatural story, right? They built a great experience and they're beloved by their community and customers, but they weren't able to run the studio profitably, both as a private company or with inside Meta. And ultimately that's not sustainable. And I think one of the things that we're really proud of at FitXR is that we've been able to run the studio profitably now for a couple of years. And after, raising about $30 million of venture funding before that. And that's just meant that we're able to be a much more secure and stable business, not only for our customers, but also for our team. And I think that's important because we see our innovation as all of the innovation that's going to make us a generational company is in front of us, not behind us, despite all that we've achieved so far. But we need to stay alive, particularly when there's harder periods in the market, to be able to continue to invest and continue to build on what we've got. Some people think that because they're our main competitor, that we would be happy about the news. And I think really or saddened maybe that it's been spun out and is now going to continue to operate. But I think really anything's further from the truth. Like we built FitXR and they built Supernatural to serve a much larger audience of people, and both experiences are capable of serving a much larger audience of people than what they currently serve. I'm much more interested in working collaboratively with experiences like Supernatural or some of the other fitness titles to grow the size of the pie and ultimately reach more people and serve more users than I am about aggressively competing without growing the size of the audience that we're going after. I want more experiences out there doing different things, and I want more people truly innovating in this space to ultimately reach more people and better serve more people.
Interesting. I appreciate the nuance of that answer. Some of the most exhausted I've got inside of a headset was playing like a bow and arrow game. And just keeping my arms up for 45 minutes with a bow and arrow was tiring in and of itself. And it's a very different sort of experience. And I'm just trying to speak to the idea that there is such a wide variety of ways of getting bodies moving in VR. It's one of my underlying philosophy ideas here of this whole medium is like, there was a time when the main form of socialization with other people was dancing, where you actually got together for a big dance event, and it's kind of gone away. The overall hint that I'm getting at there is moving your body feels great when you've got a great experience to have when you're moving your body. It's almost in opposition in some ways to the way traditional games are played. There's a huge subset of Dance Dance Revolution people who will go and buy 2 dance mats and play the game there in their living room, but it's not the same sort of scale that traditional games are played, and you play those games in such different ways. I would love to see more games that get you to move, and gosh, there's just really room for a little bit of everything. Supernatural is very much in the same vein as Beat Saber, and they've done a lot to improve that, but my point just being that there's room for a lot of different things in this space. I want to ask you that question about presence. What is your favorite moment of presence in a headset?
There's a couple of things that jump out to me on this. I think one of my favorite moments of being truly immersed and getting like feeling very lost in the experience was, did you ever play Fantasynth on Steam? Do
I
you know
don't
what that
think I've
is?
played that one, no.
It was really great. It was like this, it was what I kind of described it as an immersive music video, but you're on a conveyor belt that take you through this kind of a bunch of different worlds. And it's all like the visuals are all extremely synced to the underlying soundtrack. But it's just truly magical. I love that experience. They built one for the Quest that I think just with like some of the limitations that placed on them running on standalone devices, I don't think was anywhere near as good as the original. I also think for like a similar way, like I find Tetris effects just like really captivating. There's something for me about the synchronization of visuals to music in a 3D setting that I just like, I love. And then I think that, the experience that I come back to and I show time and time again is is it called First Contacts, the Oculus Studios one
Yes, yeah.
with the robot. I love that experience. I think it's so magical and so delightful. And it's the thing that I still come back to. I think there's actually a bunch of stuff here where I've been digging into, some of the stuff that was released in the early 2020s on VR. Like I found this amazing David Attenborough documentary that was shot, which was really focuses on close-ups of insects. And it's so amazing. Someone recommended it to me to check out the sound in it, and I went and checked out the experience, and it was just so amazing. So I don't know, it came back for me full circle to this question of like, is what's the thing that's holding it back? Is it content or is it hardware? I just think like if you're able to frictionlessly get more people and show them the David Attenborough experience and hardware that they say like, yeah, I can see myself wearing that. I think you've kind of got the ingredients there. They just need to be refined in some areas and packaged a little bit differently overall. But that's what gives me that level of excitement and optimism about where the future's going.
We're near the end of the podcast here, but I do have a couple questions I just want to close out and ask. And can you say how many people you have at FitXR these days? And can you say whether Meta's pullback here affected you directly? I want to understand from like a subscriber base perspective, did it have any kind of an effect on you?
Yeah, so we're about 45 people at the moment at FitXR, which feels like a really great size for us. We've been obviously smaller, and we've been a lot bigger as a studio as well, but I think 45 for us feels like a bit of a sweet spot right now. I think like unsurprisingly, our revenues are really correlated with device sales. And so as you're seeing the Quest 3 and the Quest 3S to a lesser extent head towards like later on in their life cycles as devices, and you start to see that kind of expected slowdown in shipments there, then we feel that like every other developer feels that. I think aside from that, at a very high like ecosystem level, there's nothing more specifically that we feel that impacts us and our ability to be successful and serve our customers here.
Are you looking at Steam Frame or any other headsets to roll out on? And have you ever considered bundling a headset with the service?
I'd love to bundle a headset with the service. I'd love to do that. We've had a bunch of conversations over the years about that. To your point before about there's a ton of different ways that people can move in VR. And what we're trying to do is really celebrate movement. I would love to bundle a bunch of great content that gets you moving and put it in and serve it as like a one subscription price, unlocks everything, and bundle the hardware into that price as well. So if anyone's listening and can help me do that, I want to partner, please hit me up. And then on Steam Frame, we're a little bit undecided. There's some fun ideas internally about maybe doing a throwback to Box VR on Steam. We're unlikely to bring the full subscription live service across. I might be wrong on this, but don't feel right now that the market on that device that kind of really desires a live service subscription fitness experience. We started on Steam with Box VR. I'd love to try and find a way of celebrating that with their new device when it comes to market.
I can't wait to hear updates on your journey. It's really cool to hear how excited you are by the idea of bundling the device. If I could pay, I don't know, $500 for a great VR headset and be guaranteed a 2-year subscription to a fitness program that is top tier, that seems like a great package right there for a lot of use cases.
And even on that, Ian, a lot of fitness services are sold as like $0 up front, and you just pay $30 a month that pays for the hardware and the content. I think that'd be a great way to lower the barrier even further to get people access to the device and the content.
Thank you so much for the time, Sam, and good luck in the future. And when you've got big a new announcement, feel free to let me know and maybe we'll have you back on. Good
Awesome.
luck in the future.
Thanks a lot, Ian. Love the conversation.